Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. Today I'm going over every election that happened this year in the year 2020. It's kind of a year in review. So without further ado, just want to get into it. The presidential election, this obviously took up most of the attention this year. On the electoral map, Joe Biden defeated President Trump 306 electoral votes to President Trump's 232. This is the exact same electoral vote number that President Trump got over Hillary Clinton. However, this time it's reversed for Joe Biden over President Trump. Joe Biden primarily did this by flipping 5 crucial states and holding everything that Hillary Clinton won. So Joe Biden did this by flipping Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. These 5 states flipped the election from Donald Trump in 2016 to Joe Biden in 2020. Every one of these states that went blue this time voted for President Trump in 2016. And so this is the presidential map. There's really not too much to talk about other than the importance of the swing states that I mentioned. The Rust Belt that voted for Trump in 2016 flipped back to the Democrats in 2020. Traditional swing states such as Virginia, Colorado, New Hampshire, and Nevada all voted for Joe Biden in varying degrees of by what percentage points. For instance, New Hampshire was 7 or so. Nevada was only 3, but however, Joe Biden won the electoral map. Now for the U.S. Senate, the Senate's actually still going on technically, but Republicans currently hold 50 Senate seats. Democrats hold 48. These were all the elections in the Senate that were up this year. Notable changes from the last composition of the Senate is Republicans flipped back the state of Alabama that Doug Jones, the Democrat, previously held. And in Colorado, John Hickenlooper, the former governor, beat the current Republican Senator Cory Gardner. So that was a Democratic flip. Arizona, astronaut and Democrat Mark Kelly defeated Republican Senator Martha McSally. So this was also a Democratic flip. And we still have 2 races undecided in the state of Georgia. One an election that's up this year, another a special election that since the former Senator Johnny Isakson retired, this is a special election that is up. In addition to these seats that I've mentioned, there are also some states that were very, very close that did go in favor of the party that currently holds them. North Carolina, Tom Tillis, a very close race. He was able to hold on here. Iowa, the state of Iowa, Joni Ernst, she was fighting very, very hard in her race. The polls showed it very, very close. She was able to hold on. Montana, where a lot of polls showed it very close, but I was never really buying it. Steve Daines was able to beat the former governor, current governor Steve Bullock by 10 points. The state of Minnesota, Tina Smith was able to beat Republican Jason Lewis by 5 points. Not super, super close, but about one of the closer by margins, I would say. The state of Michigan, very, very close. Gary Peters beat his Republican challenger John James by 1.7%. Very close, closer than James' last race and last time around. In the state of Maine, Susan Collins was able to upset most of the polls and betting odds that showed her losing. She was able to win and hold on for another 6 years in the U.S. Senate. So that was the Senate for 2020. The House of Representatives. So the Democrats retained the House of Representative controls, currently with 222 to Republicans 211. Now, this is very, very interesting because the Democrats had a much bigger House majority 2 years ago when they won. As you can see, Republicans gained 13 seats and only lost 3. Democrats had gained 3 seats and lost 12. So Republicans had a net gain of 10 seats. And this is very, very important. As you see in the map, there's a lot more red on the map nationwide than there is blue. Now, the Republicans were able to strike back in a lot of important swing districts. It would probably take a while to go over every single one of them, but all the districts like this one that has a red with like white stripes going through it, that was a Democratic seat that flipped Republican. And all the seats that have blue that have white stripes going through it, like right here in North Carolina, here's one. They're blue with white stripes, meaning a Republican had it or was redistricted that a Democrat won. So as you see, Republicans were able to win back a lot of the races. A few important ones are in Iowa, where these 2 are Democratic held, and the Republicans are leading and one and leading in the other one. Minnesota was a big flip. The 2 in California, the 21st district and the 25th district, were big holds or flips. Those were very big. New Mexico was a big flip as well. Holding the 23rd district was big for Republicans. Nationwide, it was just a very good night for the Republicans in the House of Representatives. To be completely honest with you, the Democrats really didn't have too much to cheer for in terms of the House. I mean, the only few seats they won. I mean, North Carolina redistricted, so they're kind of set up to win those. So there really isn't too much to talk about there. However, that was the electoral map, or that was the House map, excuse me, for 2020. Republicans gaining 10 seats. And we also have the governor map. Republicans have 27 governorships, Democrats have 23. Republicans gained one governorship in this election, that being from the state of Montana. Otherwise, the governorships this time around are actually pretty easy to predict. New Hampshire, for instance, New Hampshire and Vermont went the way we thought they were. North Carolina, which was actually one of the more competitive governorships, where Republican Dan Forest lost to incumbent Governor Roy Cooper. However, the margin of victory was only 4.5%, which is technically smaller than the polls predicted. West Virginia went the way we thought it would, as did Indiana and Missouri and Utah and North Dakota and Washington. And then Montana was the only one that was really competitive. However, it really didn't end up being too competitive at the end of the day. And lastly, the last thing I want to go over is the state Senate and state House majorities in each state in 2020 that changed. And I think this is very important because 2020 is every 10 years they redistrict the House based off population and such, and which party controls the state Senate and the state House can have massive implications on that. So it's important to show you some of the swing states. So Arizona stayed Republican, Colorado stayed Democrat, but very importantly, Florida and Georgia are both Republicans. Iowa is Republican, and Maine is Democrat. Michigan's Republican. Minnesota is split, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Nevada's Democrat. New Hampshire is important. New Hampshire flipped Republican for the state House and state Senate. So there's possibility with redistricting, maybe New Hampshire could potentially give a more Republican favored district or two. And then going down, North Carolina's Republican, Ohio's Republican, Pennsylvania's Republican controlled. Texas is still Republican controlled. Virginia is fully Democratic controlled by now, as is Wisconsin. So state control wise, there are more Republicans than Democrats. So I don't know if this will have a massive impact on the 2020 redistricting, but I just thought it's something interesting to keep an eye on. So that, everyone, was the 2020 election year recapped and everything that's pretty much going on this year. Joe Biden won the presidential electoral map. Republicans have lost one seat in the U.S. Senate. As of now, we're still waiting on the 2 Senate seats in Georgia. So we're still waiting on that. And the House went from a big Democratic control to a much smaller Democratic control. However, Democrats have a narrow majority still, but it did get much smaller. The governorships went the way we thought, with only one governorship flipping to the Republicans, and that is the state control. That New Hampshire flipped Republican. The rest of them pretty much stayed the same. I don't know how much of an impact that'll have, but I thought it's still pretty interesting to keep an eye on. That's going to do it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please remember to hit the like button. And if you really liked it, please remember to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you always get notified when I post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.